Hi, it's Tracy. Welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. The sun is shining, the summer decorating is continuing. This episode we are in the kitchen. We are going to be recycling, repurposing. I've got some great makeovers, lots of pink and white, and a lot of chat about hydrangeas. Welcome to my kitchen, the busiest, most used room in the house. Just to give you a sense of space, it's 600 square feet and the ceilings are 10 foot tall. When we first moved in, I did this as an extension because my husband is 6'4" and he kept banging his head on beams, wanted a big room. So the first thing we're going to kick off with is a tablescape. And before I dress a table, I love to pull all the chairs back out of the way just to give me a clear area to work around. Now, I've got some muslin here. I ordered this several years ago. Vast quantity. I used it at my daughter's wedding as table runners all the way down and then draping down the side. It's been really versatile. So I used it in my Christmas styling and I dyed it green. That worked a treat. I also pulled out another dye pod. These Dylon dye pods are fantastic. And for spring, I dyed it bright yellow. And this was my spring table. Now for my summer table, no dye pods needed because I want it to be white. Now, as you can see here, the piece that I've got is very long. So I'm pulling from one end just to get the right hangover, double checking with a chair, and the other end trimming off. And so the surplus I can pop away, and I'm sure you will see it again in another project on another day. Now, this is the width when it's stretched out. I'm just going to leave it stretched out at the moment because I'm bringing in a long piece of mirror. And I know exactly the center point because I've marked it with a little dot. I love this mirror because it is really starting to age. Now, I want to make sure it's exactly in the middle, so tape measure needed. I'm going to push the muslin back into the middle to create more of a runner and think about placemats. I've had these sisal mats for years. I've used them inside, outside. They've got sun damage, they've got rain damage, but fortunately, each one has got a good side. So I could use them with their good side showing, or I could do something to the damaged side and make them a little bit more suitable for summer decorating. This is the crockery that I want to use. More on this later. So I pulled out some different colours to see which would complement the best. And I think because I'm going for a pink and white theme, I'm going to go with my old favourite, Annie Sloan Old White. So before you do anything with chalk paint, give it a really good stir. I'm going to go with a 50-50 mix, so half paint, half water, really blending it in well together. And then taking a big Annie Sloan brush and just working my way all around the mat. Now, when you do this, you might find that you get some areas where there's maybe just a little bit too much paint. The easiest way to correct that is just spritz it with some water, get your brush back on it and work it through. If any paint comes onto the rear, the easiest way to get rid of that is just a squirt of water onto cloth and then give it a good wipe. It's chalk paint. It comes off super easy at this stage. As I've used a wash, the mat is still really flexible, but to make sure that it stays flexible and to seal all that paint in, I'm going to cover it all with lashings of white wax. And the good side is still good, so I've got 2 placemats in one. Having let the wax dry for 24 hours, I'm now ready to get them on the table. Let's see what they look like. Crockery next. Now, I did show you the type of crockery that I was going to use in this scheme. This is red transferware, and if you were with me at Christmas time, you will have seen me go to the auctions and spot this lot. This is lot 96, a collection of red transferware, and there were so many boxes. I just couldn't resist having a cheeky little bid. And my cheeky little bid did pay off. I will tell you exactly how much I paid for these. I got 150 pieces for £30. That is circa 38 USD or 36 euros. I mean, I've got to say, it is a heck of a bargain, isn't it? 150 pieces, all ironstone, different manufacturers, but I don't mind that. I quite like that eclectic mix. And look at it all. Once it had a really good wash, you could see, just look at all those cups. I mean, there's so many cups. This was obviously somebody's treasured collection, all bits and bobs collected probably over many years, and I feel truly honoured to have them in my home now. Let's dress the centre of the table now. If you saw my recent shop and haul video, you will recognise these candlesticks. I've been itching to get these out and style with them. So I'm going to place these following the lines on the table so I know that they're in balanced positions. Following that glass theme, I'm going to add 3 bud vases. Now, I'm not going to use these for flowers. I'm going to do something different with them. These were found many years ago just at HomeSense, super cheap. I think they were in like the clearance section, but they've been so useful over the years. To them, I'm going to add candles. Now, these are a real favourite of mine. They're on Amazon. They come in lots of different colours, so I will put a link below. Do check out the description box below because there'll be lots of links in there and also other videos that I refer to. Now, that's pretty enough on its own, but I think we can add a little bit more pizzazz. Remember all those cups that I got with that haul? Well, I've pulled out 12 of them, and now I think we need to go outside and have a good old mooch around the hydrangeas and see if we can find some cuttings to go in there. At the front of the property, I've got some quite large lace caps in pots. And, oh, this is Bertie, by the way, the furry supervisor, if you've not been here before. I've got a few of these lace caps that are actually now getting so huge, they really do need to go into the ground. They are in big galvanized, almost baths, and they are just completely outgrowing them. I've got 2 of them, so of course that's going to free up some great containers if I can get them moved into, I'm thinking, this bed in the middle. Now, this is the only area where we've got the blue stroke purple type of hydrangea, and I think a lot of that is to do with the soil conditions. This is my hydrangea nursery, if you like. They're all in various stages of growth because I do take cuttings. I take a lot of cuttings. I never buy hydrangeas anymore. I'm going to show you later on in this episode how I do my cuttings. It's super simple and it's a great way to get free decorating. I also grow Annabelles, and I have a love-hate relationship with Annabelles. They are such a diva, but more on that later. Let's get some lovely pink mop heads picked for the time being. before I brought these in, I gave them a really good dunk in a bucket of water. You could at this stage, if you choose, put them into some very warm water for about 30 seconds to a minute and then plunge them into cold water. That conditions them, makes them last longer, or you could do it to existing ones that are starting to look a bit tired in a vase. Next up, cutlery. Now, I find the easiest way to maneuver these around the table is just to put them in a towel or a napkin, much easier than a box. I also like to line up the ends of the cutlery with the lines in the table, and it just gives me a good reference point, so I've got a nice straight row. Glassware next. Now, I'd love to say this is an eclectic collection. Basically, it's the tail end of big collections that have kind of broken over the years. I'm just owning the premise and saying, do you know what, I'm setting eclectic glassware. Basically, I'm using up all my old odds and sods. And they are all crystal, so they do work together. Now, fortunately, when I was out thrifting a few days ago, I came across a set of 8. They are super quality, really heavy, very good condition, just £12. So I'm going to use those as well. And then people can decide whether they want a large wine and a small water or vice versa. Napkins next. Now, you can do all sorts of different styles and put them in different ways. I'm just going to fold into long strips and place on the plates. But that looks a little bit boring, doesn't it? But don't worry, my friends, I have a cunning plan. In a thrift store, charity shop as we call them here, I came across this job lot of jars for just £5. Now, there are 44 jars and 46 lids, plus a really good, strong, sturdy box. So, obvs for £5, it had to come home with me. Now, I have a feeling I should know what these jars are for. They're all numbered. So, if you know, can you please enlighten me or remind me? Because I can't remember. I just have a feeling I've seen them somewhere before. Anyway, after a jolly good clean, I pulled some out and decided to decorate with them. So we are going to head over to my Annabelle. And I'm going to tell you a little story. But let's just whiz back to a year ago when we had a massive thunderstorm. And look what happened to the diva herself. I was desperate to preserve the heads, so I staked everything up. But I thought I'm not going to get caught out like that this year. So in February, which is the time when I cut the Annabelle right the way back down to the ground, I found in my local garden centre they were uber cheap, just a few pounds each, these plant supports. So I got 3 of them and popped them around. Now, very quickly, by April, she was growing up through the supports. By June, she was starting to flounce her way around. And a few days ago, whoa, big heads. She was looking glorious. I was feeling really quite happy, thinking my cunning plan had worked, and then an almighty downpour. Oh my days, the weight of the water on the heads just pulled everything down. Not as bad as last year though, so the plant supports have worked. So I am going to just take a few of the very low heads off, and I'm going to do something creative with those. And that, my friends, is my summer table 2025. Now, more kitchen decorating, and we're going to move across the kitchen over into this corner. And I'm going to do some makeovers. There's a couple of things I want to do to go in front of this mirror. I've got this basket. This again was a charity shop find with a lid for just a couple of pounds. I had some inspiration when I was recently in Seville and I thought, I could maybe do that. So I've pulled out my Easy Fill. You will have seen me use this joint compound, this wall filler, lots of times on lots of different projects. And now I'm going to show you another way to use it. Full disclosure here, I have never done this technique before on a basket. So we're just going to figure it out as we go along. And this is the beauty, I think, about being creative. You don't always have to know step by step every single thing you're going to do. You just need to start and then figure it out as you go along. And as I am figuring it out, I'm using the lid as my test object, if you like. So you can see there's not a huge amount bleeding through on the back. Bertie here insists on curling up in this little baby bed, even though I do put the furry mats out for him when I'm working. Now it's a very hot day, so the product is drying really quickly. So to keep it moving around, I just keep spritzing it with water. It's not quite as smooth as I would like yet, but I'm going to let that dry. And now I've kind of worked out my technique, I'm going to move on to the basket. Spritzing water onto the gloves really seemed to help, just smoothing everything around. And there is product showing through on the inside, but that could be chipped off or just left, really, because it's not going to be visible. I'm going to let that dry and go back to the lid. And I used a sponge sander to start with, and then just a piece of folded paper, but it wasn't really working. Then a damp cloth. Oh my goodness, that was brilliant because it reactivated the product and you could just wipe it off. So definitely to smooth it all out once it's dry, give it a really good soaking with a damp cloth. That removed any marks in the filler and also it off the raised edges of the basket. It pulled that basket back through just to give that lovely texture. What a great finish. I am super pleased with how this turned out and not too dissimilar from the inspiration. So once it was all dry again, I then gave it a couple of coats of clear matte lacquer just to seal it in. Now, I was pleased with that. I wanted to go on to my next project, but my workbench was looking a little bit scrappy. So the easiest way to clean it was just get the sander out and give it a whiz over. Down to my storage sheds now, which regulars will know this area. This is where I store a lot of home decor. So I'm going to go in there and have a little rummage around for the next project and particularly in my storage boxes. Now I want to do a summer wreath to go on that mirror and I don't want to have to buy anything. I don't want to use anything fresh because I want it up there right the way through to autumn. So I've got a wreath, I've got some covered twine, scissors, an ice cream scoop and some wire cutters. I'm reusing a really cheap garland from Amazon. I'm reusing leftover greenery from other projects and the same with the florals. I've pulled a few out out to see what I fancy. Now, there is already a little tie on this wreath base. This wreath base was an old wreath from many years ago, and I just pulled all the gubbins off. The garland itself is actually made up of 2 strands, and they are so cheap, particularly when you're going to hang them up in a distance. So hat has gone on, as it is incredibly hot. I'm using the covered wire that I get from Amazon. Again, it'll be linked below. I love using this because it's got a real rustic vibe to it. And I don't necessarily need to hide it either, because I will be adding more of it as I go through building up this wreath. The ice cream scoop has the perfect size handle for making the covered wire spirals that I love to use. Time to bring our creations into the kitchen, but first the step stool, because you may have noticed I am somewhat vertically challenged, and even with the step stool I still can't reach the top of it. The basket next, and into the basket I'm going to put some chicken wire. Chicken wire is your friend when you are flower arranging, so definitely invest in a roll of it. You will use it again and again, because of course you can keep on reusing it, so a roll should last you for so long. I am going to use these hydrangeas. These were from TK Maxx online. They were just $9.99 and I bought a lot. I bought a lot of them because I absolutely love them. There are 7 heads on each one. So I only need 4 in this basket here to make a really full display. Happy days. Staying on this countertop, we're going to move across to this corner, and then I also want to do a mirror image on the other side in this corner. Now, I picked up some jugs some time ago from TK Maxx. These are very light terracotta. They were just a bit too orangey for me. So I used the product that I used earlier on the basket and did a very smooth finish on them. Again, chicken wire is my friend, has come out. And again, the hydrangeas that I am totally in love with, along with rolling pins. Now, these rolling pins, old charity shop finds, they've been sanded and then finished in the white oil. That's exactly the same way that I finished the chopping boards behind the range. Now, terracotta pots plus the rolling pins are actually quite heavy, so I'm going to bring the terracotta pots with the flowers in to start with, and then add the rolling pins in situ, because they can move around a little bit, and then it's just a quick slide in. The furry supervisor's making a formal complaint because there's no blanket on his chair. Now, he's going to have to wait a little while because I'd like to do this corner first. I've got this old enamel bread bin. It came in a job lot from auction. I've used the lid as a light shade in the bedroom cottage. And now I think I'm going to pop in a big hydrangea. This one is a 2-year-old and is growing really well. Now, they're in these soft plastic pots, which means that when I go to pop it into this bin, it catches at the top, but because it's soft plastic, you can just squidge it slightly and it drops in. Job's a good one. So I'll share with you how I get all this free decor by taking cuttings. I start with some good compost, pre-watered in just half a dozen pots. I've got a bucket of water and my secateurs. I'm looking for a bush that is fully hydrated. I don't want anything wilting, anything with dew on, and I certainly don't want to be cutting anything with a flower bud on it. So once I find my stem of choice, I then go down 2 to 3 sets of leaves and then just cut above the leaf node below. I always have the bucket of water around to keep them hydrated, and I cut in very small batches. It's a particularly warm day whilst I'm doing this as well. So once I've got my little batch, I'll then start reducing the leaves on them. So I'm cutting at the leaf node. This is purely to encourage root growth. We don't want any energy going into growing leaves anymore. We want it all in root production. Rooting powder, hormone powder, optional. I have some to hand, so I'm having a little dibble in there. I then make a hole with a skewer just down the side of the pot and pop it in there. Evidently, you get more root production if you push them to the sides. So I also pop one in the middle as well. I've got 36 cuttings here, so we will be revisiting those in September. You'll normally get roots appearing within 2 to 3 weeks. I tend to leave them in for 6 weeks. They need to be in natural light, but not direct sunlight. So here in the kitchen courtyard, they're in a nice sheltered, safe position where hopefully they're going to grow lots of roots. Now, back to these little negative spaces on the countertops. I think I'm just going to leave these for now, do some more decorating around the room, and then see if we need anything there. What I definitely do want, though, is something in this corner, and it's this immensely heavy jar, hence my very strange walk, and maybe just a couple of hydrangeas. Well, I did say I bought a lot, didn't I? The beauty of placing a jar in this corner position is that you can use the wall to actually create a really high display. And finally, a blanket on the chair. His lordship has been loitering and waiting for this moment. And he is straight in there. Didn't need any invitation at all. Before we dress the two islands, let's move across to my big old pine chunky dresser. Absolutely love this piece. I've pulled out another basket from the storage shed and I'm going to pop a plate in the bottom of it because I'd like another hydrangea to go in. Now, this one is 3 years old, I believe. I use it quite a lot in my decorating because it's just such a lovely shape. You can see here it goes really tall. So in this position here with a really big piece of furniture, it does make quite a statement. Over to this corner and we're going to do a little bit of styling in here. I love working with vintage books. I got a job lot from auction for just £10 some years ago, and I group them all by colour and I use them inside and outside. I've got a wooden candlestick here. In fact, I've got 2 wooden candlesticks. And if you saw my last shop and haul, you'll have seen the makeover on those as well. I've pulled out a little bit more of that vintage crockery and I've added this time some lace caps. Over to the other side of the kitchen now, and to my big mahogany dresser that is painted white, affectionately known as Big Mo, Big Mahogany Mo. And we're going to dress her in lots of lovely vintage items. I like to use the old planes as bookends. These are Jacari bats that were found on my last shop and haul video for just £3, teamed with a couple of pounds for an old-fashioned mallet. Let's move over to the islands now, and we will start with the sink island. Now, in the corner here, I generally tend to put a tray. This is, again, an old one. I've had it for so long. Popped a book in, and another one of these pots that I picked up some years ago from TK Maxx Home Sense, terracotta, and just did that lovely watered down mix, plus a not to be used decorative tea towel. I found these candles in the sale at, again, TK Maxx, and they were £1.10 each when I got to the till. So always try and buy your candles out of season. You'll get such good deals. I'm often asked what this is, this black disc. It's the pop-up socket. Very useful, don't necessarily want to see it, so I've got an antique Welsh butter press that can sit on top of it, along with another decorative tea towel not to be used. Over to the workbench island now, and on here I'm going to use something in the middle that is my bestest ever find. This is a complete freebie. It was a wooden box found by the bins at the auctions. What can I say? I'm a classy gal. I hang around the bins. It had a rotten bottom. Took the bottom off, gave it a good clean up, popped on some chicken wire, which I stapled all the way around, and then to hide the staples, I glued twine around the edge. It is so versatile. I've used it in so many different ways, and this time I'm going to use it for some fresh decorating. Now, these are plastic tubs left over from Christmas chocolates one year, and they make great watertight containers. So I'm just slipping those in there, although this one's been a bit of a tricky. Dickie will be having none of that, love. A little whack with a meat tenderizer soon sorted him out, and there we go. We are good to fill them with water. And they are such a good size so you can get quite a volume in there, so you're not constantly having to top them up. Now, to go in there, we're going to choose some of the Annabelle hydrangea heads that are right at the bottom. The others I want to keep on the plant because I want to use those for drying. It's far too early to cut them yet. And then I can use them in my styling for my fall and winter decorations. But for now, we're going to enjoy these blooms in their fresh form. When I'm putting them in, I'm making sure that the stems are going into the water. Oh, and don't think I'm throwing the cuttings on the floor. I've actually got a big bucket down there. Now, as for the space on the countertops, I think actually there's enough going on, so I'm going to leave that negative space.